Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you a mini Power Query project that I've put together. It's all about what happened on this day in history, and the idea is that I've collected a whole load of significant dates within history, and we can see them here. So there's about 1,500 of them, and we've got lots of dates, lots of events, but if you look at them, then on the face of it, they're quite difficult to, it would be difficult to filter this in such a way that you could tell it the month and the day of the month in such a way that you kind of pull back the results. So what I've done is I've used Power Query to do just that. So on this page here you can see a result set for July the 21st. So essentially we have a table, we enter the relevant sort of the month and the date, and then we hit the go button, find the event on the date, and away it goes and collects that data. And I'll show you under the bonnet shortly. So this is for July the 21st. We can see that we've had the Battle of Shrewsbury, etc, etc, and Lord of the Rings, one of my favourite books, was published on the 21st July. Similarly, if we put in May the 6th, and we put find the event on the date, what we can see is we see a whole load of new events, and we've got Roger Bannister running the 4-minute mile on the 6th of May 1954, as well as the Channel Tunnel opening, etc, etc. So how is this done? Well, as with most things, it's done with Power Query, and what I'll be showing you is I'll be running through the fact that it uses lists, parameters, which feed into dynamic filtering, with some text cleaning and trimming. So let's move on to our data tab. Go to show queries. We just right click on the query, hit the edit button, and we are into the query editor. So if we run to the top of the exercise, what we have is we pull the data from the parameter table and we get May the 6th in there, and we just hold on to that shortly. The navigation is a little bit more difficult to explain, and I'll come back to that later on. We also store essentially a list of non-numeric characters, and that gets used later on, and then we start off with the source, and the source is the table that we saw, which is kind of messy. So the first thing we do is there's a change type exercise, which always happens. It means that it's detected that it's text. We then go through a splitting process. So if we look here, essentially it splits on the colon, and it's rather nice because it's in every single one of the fields. So we split on the colon, and what we end up there with is some not terribly clean data. So there's a change type exercise happens, that's always automatic, and then we do a text trimming, which removes the spaces at both ends, whether or not you can see them, and then cleaning, which I believe it will remove if you've got two spaces. It will remove those. So it is what it says on the tin. It's a cleaning exercise. These are accessed through the graphic user interface, which I'm sure I'll do a much more detailed post on in the future. We then go on to do a replacement of the value here. Every single one of these has got the word of in it. So essentially I remove space of space from it, and we get to 10th September. Then what happens is, yeah, in fact that's that happening there. Then the next exercise is we split on the space here, so we'll end up with 3 columns with the date, the month and the year. And we go 1, 2, 3. All once again via the graphic user interface. This then we add a custom column, and what that does, this is the first sort of slightly complex thing that we do. If we look at if we hit the cog here, what we can see is that the exercise that's performed is it's a lot easier to see what's going on here. Essentially what happens is we remove the non-numeric characters. Earlier on we did a list of non-numeric characters, and that creates something, I call it clean day. Essentially we'll have 10th becomes 10, first becomes 1, etc. So what we end up with is this looking nice and neat. There's a bit of reordering of the columns, and then we merge these columns together to give us a proper date. Then I think I went on to duplicate the column. There's a bit of change in type here, which is normal. In fact, in this case, it's actually changed it to a date type, which is fine because that's exactly what it is. It would have done that automatically, I believe. Renaming the columns, which is essentially just going to the top and doing the rename exercise. Another change type because it likes to do that. And then finally, this is another sort of slightly technical area where we do a filtering process, but this time it's more complex because we enter the day is the day of birth, and the month is the month of birth. I've kind of gone for the idea that you're kind of putting in your birthday and seeing what happened on your birthday. And the reason this is relevant is because if we look at the advanced editor, which essentially is all of these steps taken together, what we can see is we can see day of birth here and month of birth here. Lovely. But if we go further on up, month of birth is the parameter table, which is because Power Query has got what's known as base 0. It means essentially the first line is known as 0 and the second line is known as 1. That's simply how it works. Essentially this is the intersection which tells us that we've got the month of birth followed by the day of the birth. Wonderful. And then we feed that into the filtering. So I cancel out of that. We can see that we've filtered. There's a bit of removing of columns here just so that we've got the columns that we need, and I just did a bit of change in the titles, and then if we hit close and load, we're back to where we started. So in terms of how you use this spreadsheet, all you do is you put in a month, which has to be in Word form, and secondly you put in a date which has to be a numeric. And then once you've done that, you hit find the event on date. Now this is the only reason you could hit refresh all and that would work, or you can hit this find event on date, which essentially is a bit of VBA which does exactly the same thing. So if I hit find event on date, what we have for October the 18th is that the BBC was formed in 1922, as well as a couple of other events. And then just finally, just touching on the VBA associated with find event on date, essentially all I would have done there was just do a little bit of recording of macros using Excel. And if you go assign macro, edit, you can see that it's a very, very simple bit of code, and all it does is refresh that query in this case. Lovely. So I hope you find this useful, and you find out the dates that things that might have happened that are relevant to you on the various dates. I should say that the data set is predominantly UK focused, so there may well be events that you consider significant that won't appear here, but nevertheless, it's you can, I'm sure, with a bit of practice, you can feed in your own dates and get some results out that are interesting. I hope this has been useful to you. Please give me feedback, and if there are any data exercises that you'd like me to take a look at, do drop me a line. Thanks very much, and see you later.